I only need math input label. So, okay, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Sorry if I don't know if that I got really excited about that little thing, so I apologize. Okay.
It's good. And I apologize preemptively for if you look at any of my content on any of either beta or old Doenet, not 90% of it still is in this old format where it'll make the accessibility checker unhappy. But it's easy enough to just do a control X and highlight everything. And you can have a whole sentence, off to the left-hand side. And if you have a preamble that's long, you can stick the whole thing inside a label. It's fine. Um, and then, so that's a quick fix. Also, I found that LLMs do a pretty good job of, you feed it the document, you say, here is what I need the structure to be, and it can kind of do a pretty good job of pulling that in for you. Okay, so then the same thing goes with an answer tag. It's going to have a nested math input, usually, unless you're doing some kind of logic-based answer. So you'll find content where this stuff is out here, and then it'll get angry. And the thing to do is actually so without a math input, so some answers you could embed a math input, but if you don't have that, you can just do this. That's okay. This into your label. And now I have, oops. Oh, because I don't have a value. Why is it not giving me a box join? Okay, it's just missing that. So this is an implied math input, which Donet's automatically giving you. And so the label is getting attached behind the scenes to the math input that's like implicitly created. So another thing though is perhaps you want to use that math input value. Um, so a lot of times I'll be like, take this value, we'll use it elsewhere. It's also being checked in an answer. So I'm using a math input here. And in this case, see how my label went away. And now I'm like, okay, I have it right here. I don't understand. So the reason is it it's no longer implicitly generated because I created the math input itself directly. So now my math input, which I created manually, is missing the label. So it's ignoring the thing that I put in the answer. So that's kind of obtuse, but basically think about it as if I create the math input myself, I need to put the label inside that. So instead of having a self-closing tag, I'll just take this and I will attach it to the input, and now I have Green Man back. Okay, I'll stop there and see if we have any other concerns about how to do these. These are the ones you'll use the most likely. Okay. There are lots of other inputs that you can use. You can do a text input. And you could give it a label that would say, what is your name? And if you don't have that label, it'll make the accessibility checker will yell at you. You can do this isn't gonna work syntactically, so I have to start over. Oh. Something called a choice input, which is behind the scenes, that's what's getting embedded in your multiple choice questions. If you're doing style like that, it's embedding a choice input. And so I can have like a little sort of a survey, maybe it's ungraded. So what is your favorite color? And I'm only going to give you blue or green. And if I do this, as you can expect, right now, this is not associated with the choice input. And so it is telling me choice input must have a short description or a label. So again, I can just take this and stick the label right in here. Okay, so there's just lots of different places where you would add the label, and a lot of times if you're editing things, you'll have to just kind of smush whatever text is out front and inside the component, if that makes sense. Okay. The other thing that it keeps saying is that I could have a label or a short description. So when would I use a short description and when would I use a label? Um, and so I think, uh, what is, have you guys used short descriptions in any of your content that you've made so far?
I have not.
Okay.
Same.
Okay, so starting fresh. So basically what it does, and let me just try showing you what happens if I change this to a short description. Okay, so well, it's interesting too. I wonder why it,
You have extra gradient
ah,
in there.
thank you. Like, what weird edge case did I just make? Okay, so it says, what is your favorite color right here? But I don't see anything. And so that illustrates that sort of there's a functional difference between a short description and a label. A label is going to be rendered and read out by the screen reader. So it's gonna probably annoy your screen reader users if they match. If you can have both, and in some cases you might want both, but the screen reader user will hear, what is your favorite color? And then they will hear, what is your favorite color again? Because it's going to read out both of the label and the short description. So there are some cases where you have questions that you're posing to your students that is very clear in context what's going on visually. But it would be disruptive to the flow of what you're doing. To have a label, because like maybe it's in the middle of a paragraph. But however, if you use short description, you can give some additional context to your screen reader users. So let me see if I can craft a way to do this. Okay. Enter your two favorite, no, that will need two text inputs. Yeah, well, okay, we're gonna ditch this choice input. We're gonna do something else just to show you two favorite numbers. And then I'll say I'll have two math inputs. And I'm just going to give them two different names. So maybe using them some math later. Okay, so there's not much of a paragraph here, but you can imagine maybe have a bunch of text going on. And so then, ooh. Okay, so imagine this is all in a paragraph, this sentence, and I'm telling a story like Anurag's clicker activity. So visually, you can see immediately, okay, I just need to enter in each one, its own number, has one, I have two boxes for this. But if you're a screen reader reading along, it's not clear that that's what's happening. So this is really like a list or a set of objects, and you need to tell someone who can't see it visually that that's what's going on. So I would give, in this case, I don't want to label because it would interrupt the flow. So I'll do a short description and I'll just say, enter your first favorite number. Or maybe you could just write one of two, it could be very simple here, but just to give some clarity. I'll do the same thing. I need to close my math input. And there we go. So now it's not going to look any different. But if I were to let you hear this, you would hear that short description play out, which might be worthwhile to do. Let me see if I can.
You want to change it to second favorite number?
Oh yeah, thank you.
Accessibility shortcuts.
Sorry about that. Thank you. All right, so I need to make sure. Did you guys hear the woman say accessibility shortcuts just now? Okay, cool. All right, so I will try and show you what this sounds like.
Accessibility checked.
Slow. Okay.
Enter. Enter your first favorite number here. Enter your first favorite number here. Map input. Edit text. You are currently on a text area. Comma. Enter your second favorite number here. Enter your second favorite number here. Map input. Edit text. You are currently on a text area.
Okay.
Zoom meeting.
Ooh,
Window.
I didn't mean to
Message
stop the
everyone.
share.
Text.
I meant
Message
to-
everyone. Voiceover off.
I meant to kill the voiceover rather than my share. Sorry about that. But you can see that it does in fact read off the description that you want. So that is what you would use a short description for. Okay, so I think that it might
Can
be
we show an example of when that is very poorly done?
Yes. Are you talking about your Canvas example? Do you have one?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. I was hoping you would.
This came from a colleague after it went through multiple layers of those accessibility tool checkers and Adobe Acrobat Pro. I shared. Oh, wait. I sent it to Dwayne by accident. Oh, no. I sent it to everyone. It's in the Zoom chat. And apparently this was professionally tagged by Adobe Acrobat Pro. And got a score of 100% through Yuja Panorama, which is our accessibility checker of choice. So do you want to run through this thing, Virginia? Or attempt to?
So I can, but for me, it's going to open in, you said you tested it in the LMS, right? So where should I open it?
Just open it in preview and try to tab through it with the accessibility voiceover.
Okay. It automatically opened for me in, how do I,
What did it open in?
Adobe Acrobat.
Try Adobe Acrobat. Huh?
Yeah.
Maybe you get magical
live testing. It's I don't know how it's gonna go.
It'll be a surprise.
Okay.
Adventure.
I think it makes more sense though to do it in a context that's
Well, if you download the file and then right-click it,
okay.
you should be able to open with and then click preview because not too many people are going to have a paid. Well, maybe they do.
No, you're
On average, people are not going to pay for a license unless the institution's footing the bill or they're
Okay,
independently wealthy.
my Zoom just froze.
I think the Adobe overlords are hearing us.
Yeah, this is not helping. I'm sorry, guys. My Zoom has been doing this a lot recently where it'll become unresponsive. Okay, here we go. We're almost there. Yeah. All right, sharing my screen. And now we're in preview. I'm back. And I have not tested this. So let's see how it goes.
Accessibility short check. Menu, 10 items. Closing menu, document, group. Menu, 14 items. Closing menu, insert page, menu button. You are currently on a menu button. To choose this menu, document, group. You are currently on a group. To interact with items in this group, press Control, Option, Shift, down arrow. In document, group. 22 items, page 1, containing heading level 1, pre-calculus map 1140. Page 2, containing heading level 2, rational functions. Page 3, containing heading level 2, example 1. Page 2, containing heading level 2, rational functions. You are currently on a page inside of a group. To interact with the content of this page, press Control, Option, Shift, Dump in page 2, containing heading level 2, rational functions. 4 items, heading level 2, rational functions. Equals 22 plus 3 minus 2. You are currently on a text element inside of a page. Plus 3 equals 0 equals minus 3. The domain is the set of all real numbers except 0, minus 3, 2. Plus 3 equals heading level page 1. Professor Rogers. You are currently on a text element. Voiceover off.
So hopefully you can see that even though the individual elements might be tagged, the math doesn't actually get read correctly. It starts going in different orientations and different pathways. I don't know how it's doing that, but it's not reading the thing that you're seeing or that you intend for students to read on the screen.
That was a very good example. Okay.
So,
Go ahead.
but okay, so I am in this workshop because I have written a large set of activities in Word, but it's not accessible the way I would like it to be for various formatting reasons with Word that I won't go into here. But I want to convert it to pretext and then have some of the activities in Doenet so that they are accessible. So, but if we do the tagging the way that we're supposed to, in theory, that should work. So, I mean, generally, the way I understand how it can pass accessibility is if those things exist and there's text in them, it will pass whether it makes sense or not, but we always have to review it for pedagogical intent. Is that what that example is getting at? Sorry I spoke so long, but that's my question.
That's a really good question. No, so I think what we're trying to illustrate with that example is that PDFs are bad. We don't like PDFs. and Doenet ML is even, you can invest a lot of effort into getting what is called a tagged PDF. And it's not like a web page, it's not like a Doenet ML document, and it's something where someone goes into the after the fact and tries to like create this structure and impose this on the document. And it is not always effective, even if, as Anurag said, it's professionally done. So it's more of a plug for, keep things simple and write them in Doenet ML or pretext, or HTML, and it'll, if you do it semantically the first time, it will work the way it's supposed to work.
And I actually have upcoming an example to struggle with some of we do have examples where we think about how do you actually write the intent. I don't know. We only have a half hour left, so we'll see how much we might not
No, no,
start
no,
off.
no, 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 no. Please don't skip that example.
Okay, well, I won't, but I won't give you a long time to work on it. Okay.
Well, that's fine.
All right, and up next we have what, short descriptions for graphs, or we shifting?
Yeah, I guess I'll do that quickly. I want to actually do the more fun stuff. But okay, let me show you a short description, and then let me know whether you want to do the task of adding the graph or not, Virginia. But okay, so I am going to go. Where am I? I'm here. I want to go back. I think I'm going to go back to the documentation. Go to the documentation. I'm going to go to the guide for writing accessible activities. And I just want to say briefly that about how you write short descriptions for a image and for a graph. There's not a whole lot to say because it's the exact same thing as with the input. I'm gonna get rid of this figure here. It's confusing me. There's a figure in here. Let's start without that first. The first example has a figure. So here is an image that is correctly annotated because you just see the squirrel here, but then there is a short description that says a gray squirrel hangs upside down from a tree trunk, stretching toward a hanging bird feeder. So this is an example of an alt. Sometimes you'll hear them called alt text. It's so what it is in the HTML, but it's a description that gives the user, the screen reader, an idea of what they should be getting from this picture. If you don't have a short description, and then I'll get the same this angry thing here again, and it will say for accessibility, image must either have a short description or be specified as decorative. And so it gets mad at you. I'll put the short description back in there. Now I got rid of the error. Now, for some reason, you don't, the image is just like a little border on your screen or something like that that the screen readers can completely skip. Then you could say decorative equals true or just decorative. Then then there's no accessibility violation. But the point is, screen readers have no access. They don't even know that this image is even there. So don't do that unless you really mean it. If I go back to the original example, now I have a caption. So here I have a caption for this figure. So I put everything inside a figure. I gave the figure a caption. Even though you gave a caption to this figure, that still does not satisfy accessibility requirements. If I were to get rid of the short description, it still gives me an angry man. So captions are useful. They're a great way of describing it, but it won't satisfy the accessibility requirements. You also need to have a short description. So basically every image, every graph, every video has to have a short description in it. You can go a little bit further. You can also get a description. So a short description is only for screen readers. And there's a restriction of what you can put in there. You can't put math in there because it has to be actual just text. On the other hand, you can add a description. And a description lets you give more information. And a description is both for screen readers and for visual users. So it's kind of like the label for an input, but it's not because it does not satisfy accessibility requirements. So if you put a label on an input, you're done. You don't have to do a short description. For an image, you have to give it a short description, and then if you want, you can also give it a description. And a description here, I can click on this little eye. This will give me information for both the screen reader users and visual readers. I was already talking about purely decorative stuff. So and then same thing for video, whatever. I didn't do a video again. Same thing for a graph. You can add a short description to a graph, which we'll cover in the next exercise. So maybe I'll just go on to the next. Are there any questions here though? Okay, I'm going to go back to Doenet. I am going to go to my demos folder, and I'm going to share this document with you guys called Making Accessible Static Graph Accessible. Copy and paste that link into the chat. I'm going to go through this. So there's two different scenarios here. If we have time, we can do a second scenario as well. But let's talk a little bit about. Well, maybe I'll have you do this as an exercise at first, and then we'll get to this annotation part. Here's a graph, and so this part. Imagine this part isn't part of my exercise, right? So right here, this is just for us. But my exercise for the students here's the graph, and that question is how many local minima does the function have? So how many local minima does this have? You want to just unmute? I can't really see very well with it.
Aaron motioned to.
Okay, and how did you figure out it was two?
I looked for the graph to go from decreasing to increasing, and I saw
Okay, and then you saw that, so it'd be two. So now your job. So if you take that document that I have, I gave you, you can put it in the either load it into your activities or put it in a scratch pad. Add a short description to this graph and think about what, just I'll just give you a step. Okay, so you have a screen reader user. You want them to answer this question. How many local minima does a function have? So what do you want to put in? Now I could go like this. I could do short description, a cool graph. And now, okay, now there's still accessibility violation down there, but the accessibility violation from this graph went away, right? So this now meets the accessibility checkers. Probably not very useful. So let me give you, should I give you 5 minutes to think about what do you want to write in for a short description for this graph?
That's about 5 minutes, Dwayne.
All right. Anyone want to share what they wrote for their short description?
Honestly, I think mine's just too long. Maybe I like did 1 and 2.
Okay. Well, what did you start with? Or what did
I said
you?
this graph is the continuous function that is decreasing on the interval -infinity to -6, then increasing on the interval from -6 to -2, then decreasing on the interval from -2 to 4, and then increasing after 4.
Does that give the student enough information to tell where the minimum are?
I mean, I that was my goal.
Oh, I think so. I don't know, just what the others
Yeah,
agree.
I mean, I think so, but
I think so too. I think it's a better description than what I gave. I just said like increases on these intervals, decreases on these intervals, but you have like a increases, then decreases, then increases, then decreases. I think it's nicer.
yeah. And then I needed to add continuous to that because I was like, oh, I think I need to be clear on what this looks like. So I added that.
Okay, so
But that
that's a
was really
good.
long. So I don't know what short or long is, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean there are some restrictions for screen readers and on alt text, but I don't really know what screen readers actually at. We want to do more testing with that because they say like short descriptions are supposed to be no more than like some really short number of characters, which you went well over.
Yeah, I
Um,
have way over
but
that.
yeah, we want to experiment more to find out like do the screen readers most people use actually read the longer text. So that seems like a reasonable description for this graph. How about the second graph? Do you think it's a reasonable description for this graph? The second graph in this document.
I don't see the difference. What am I missing?
The graph's exactly the same.
Oh, okay.
But read the question underneath it. Read the context. What you're asking the students to do.
Oh, I see. I didn't catch that was. I thought you were just asking me to look at the graph. Well,
Yeah,
I kind of gave them the answer.
I intentionally did that. I was trying to fool you. Yeah. So do you think your description would be a good description for this graph?
I mean, I gave them the answer.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of gave too much of, well, you gave too much away for this one.
Yeah, I gave way too much away.
All right. So maybe, I mean, the point is good short descriptions are context dependent. It's not, you're not just describing the graph here, but here's the exact same graph, but you probably want to do something different because you want your students to do something. You don't want to give away the answer. You want to give enough information so that they can do it, things like that. So writing descriptions, short descriptions, effective short descriptions is it's an art, right? It's something you have to work on. There are different you can find things written up about people recommending procedures and things like that. I have some reference to one of them in our documentation. Any
I
question
would
about
really like to hear somebody's short description that's shorter
that?
than mine that works. I'm
So
curious
Yeah.
about a real one.
I'm not sure mine works, but I have a really hard time with um, the describing of graphs because it gives away so much of the mathematical information that we want students to do in interpreting the graph. So I wrote my short description very um, non-mathy. I basically just said a polynomial graph in which both ends point up. The points P -6, 1, comma Q -2, 6, comma R 4, 4 are labeled and are local extremes. And basically left it up to the reasoning of the students to go further from that. But I mean, that whole part of the both ends point up, but I honestly cheated a little bit and I looked at the second scenario, and I thought, well, how can I word this so I don't have to write this twice as well? But I don't know. I'm wondering what other people's feelings about that are, because it's this is the hardest part for me, is how to describe a graph without using math language and giving the answers away to students. But yet we want, so I guess if I was writing a textbook with an example, I would write it very differently than I would for a problem like this.
I mean, I guess you could use the word falling and rising. Like
Hmm,
use words that are more like non-mathy, but people can picture it.
that's true.
Goes up, goes down, falls, right? Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
In May, I attended this part of the workshop as an attendee, not as a facilitator, and I also cheated Jen. I looked down to question two because I didn't want to do the same thing again. uh, my approach, if I remember, was not saying anything about increasing or decreasing, but I just said it's a smooth, continuous polynomial graph, and it passes through, but I did not just mention points P, Q, and R. I mentioned that it passes through -8, comma 5, and then there's a labeled point P that passes through -6, 1, where the student, whoever's listening to this, would have to imagine that as we move to the right, the y coordinates are dropping, which means that the graph has to be decreasing. And then you can mention that, the next label point is Q, or if you really want, you can introduce another one at -4, comma, I don't know, 3.5 or something. So I did not just point out the things that were highlighted by Dwayne, but I went around those points to give the user or give the reader clues on increasing and decreasing without actually saying that.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean that's the right way. That's just the way I did the activity when I saw it a month ago.
This is a really good activity.
Sounds like you guys need to have a working group for accessibility. Here, come
Mhm.
with your accessibility questions and let's try to figure this out.
Is this a good time to plug the working groups, Dwayne?
Well,
I would also ask somebody who's a non-mathematician to read it for me and see what they think, right? Like somebody who doesn't have a math background, or maybe even have somebody like describe it for me who doesn't have a math background and see what they say.
it'd be interesting to have some of the author pods be themed. You could theme one of them for like, accessibility or something like that. So that we have to make sure there's somebody who knows what they're doing in there, so it's not a bunch of uh,
Yeah, and if we call it a polynomial, do we need to say that it's smooth and continuous?
That's why I didn't use the word polynomial. I was trying to, I don't know. I was too mathy now that I think about it. You're right. I think I should have said rises and falls. And maybe I should have even said PQ and R, and I didn't say that. I didn't catch that until he said that. That was smart.
Well, no,
right.
I think you did a great job of describing it.
Mhm.
And with the decreasing, increasing, I'm not sure what that this is just so hard for me.
Right. And then the use of polynomial, that's really a judgment call. Like, do your students know what a polynomial looks like? And
That's
I mean,
exactly what I was thinking.
yeah, exactly. The one nice feature of this is it really forces you to think about what do your students know? What am I communicating to your students? I find that as you wrestle with these issues for accessibility, it actually helps you think even more broadly about how am I teaching things and what are the kinds of things I need to emphasize. So it can make your content better for everybody as you struggle with this very hard job of trying to figure out short descriptions.
Yeah, I think I agree with Virginia that if there's something on the graph, then it should be said. Like I think I agree with that in the chat.
Hmm.
Um, one thing that I would also add to this, I'm a little afraid to say it, but I'm just gonna say it, is two things. One is it's okay to, put yourself in the mind of like a middle schooler or something and just like describe what you see. So a lot of times I will say, well, going from left to right, this is what is happening. Um, or if you have more advanced, users, you can start talking about going to infinity and positive X and, like use more specific terms the higher up maturity level. But I have also, I will take a first stab at something and actually even with maybe taking like a LaTeX file that has a TXE graph and I sometimes will pass it through an LLM to get like a starter code. And those descriptions can be like, it's helpful to me because sometimes I will see that that it's create a description that is much more concise than something I come up with because I tend to come up with like really verbose ones. So it's kind of just a iterative process of the more you write and the more you look at them and the more you kind of like seek help, um, the better they'll get.
Well, you ready for the next wrinkle?
Sure.
So one of the things I love about working in this space of um, open source ecosystems is you get inspired by a lot of cool stuff that people do. And we're closely aligned with the pretext group, and they think a lot about accessibility. In fact, they even made one of the people in that community made something called Prefigure, which is a really cool way of making graphs even more accessible. So I want to illustrate uh, some of the features of Prefigure, which we have built into Doenet. And what Prefigure allows you to do is create annotations for components within the graph. I'll show you this by changing. So right now if you want to do prefigure, you have to say renderer equals prefigure. Oops. And if you say renderer equals prefigure, then you can no longer drag anything. So prefigure is just a static format. If I had a point I was trying to drag on the graph, I couldn't use prefigure. But when I do that, I now have, okay, I haven't figured out how to put a grid on here yet. Imagine there's a grid on there. My support of prefigure, it's not a prefigure issue, it's just Doenet has to learn how to use prefigure. So imagine there's a grid there as before. And now what you can do is you can create annotations that a screen reader can use to go through with their keyboard and look at the different pieces of it. How you do that is you start typing annotations. And I can never remember how annotations work. So what I always do is I go to the snippet called annotation skeleton, which is going to just auto-generate some annotations. They're not, you'll need to update them, but it's the only way I can do to remember the syntax. So I'm going to go ahead and here and select annotation skeleton. And now you can see how annotations work in Prefigure. I have an annotation that describes the graph overall. Again, this graph of 3 points in a function is just automatically generated. You just looked, okay, you had 3 points in a function. As we just discussed with the short description, the key is, you need to think about what actually to write. But so you would have to go and say more information about increasing or decreasing or whatever you want right here. And then notice that we have a point called P, and there's an annotation just of the point P. And it says a point with X coordinate, whatever it is, and whatever it is. And then there's an annotation for the point Q and the point R. And then now another annotation for the point F, or the function F, which I couldn't think of anything. I couldn't think of anything to automatically generate here. So it's a completely useless description. But there you go. So I'm going to leave it like this. And now I'm going to show you if you have a screen reader. We actually don't even need a screen reader for this. So let me know whether you can hear this. I'm going to click on the graph.
A graph of 3 points in a function.
Can you hear that? That came across? And now a screen reader user will hear that, but then now they can use the arrow keys. They can navigate, they can go different levels. I only made one level here, but I'm going to hit the down arrow.
A point with x coordinate -6 and y coordinate 1.
And as I go to these different pieces of the graph, it zooms right in on it and it will tell it'll read aloud whatever the description of it is. And now I go to the next
A
point.
point with x coordinate -2 and y coordinate 6. A point with x coordinate 4 and y coordinate 4.
And you can see it's reading it down here as well. And I do one
A
more,
function.
just as a function, which is pretty boring. But this allows you to group things. In fact, what if I were doing this, maybe I might want to do this. I do an annotation, and I'm going to say text equals 3 points. Close off this annotation and wrap the points like this. So now that they're nested, it doesn't really show up very well. Let me maybe indent these a little bit. And now you can have multiple levels to your indent. Again, you need to think about semantically and pedagogically what you want the user to see. But now what I get,
A graph of 3 points and a function.
when I hit down arrow,
3 points.
I just get the 3 points. And then I hit right arrow,
Function.
I go back, so I can go back and forth with
Points.
3 points. And then I can hit down arrow again
A
and
point with x coordinate -6 and y coordinate 1. A point with x coordinate -2 and y coordinate 6.
so you can structure your graph. How do you want screen reader users to browse through the different pieces? What do you want them to be, what do you want to be read to them at the moment? So it gives you a way of allowing screen readers to explore a graph and look at the different pieces. Another cool feature of Prefigure is it also lets you print out the graph on a Braille embosser. It'll actually, you can't really do that in Doenet, but you'd have to go to prefigure.org and send it over there. But it can make Braille versions of these graphs, so you can emboss it on a big sheet of paper, and they can follow the graph with a raised surface and then read the labels and things like that. So there's lots of things people are working at and trying to make these graphs accessible. So what do you think? That just overwhelmed you? What took you one step too far, or what do you think?
I like it.
Yeah, I'd have to play around with it, but I think it's really nice.
Right. You thought making, I don't know if it's easier or harder now than a short description, right? It's like more detail, but maybe the structure makes it easier. I don't know. So this is an option. You can activate the prefigure renderer. You can create an annotation and give the screen readers more information about it. And that's what this, if you go to the uh you go to here, there's that task. We're about out of time, so we've talked about labeling the answers. And the one thing we didn't mention with the answers is you can, is it description, Virginia? I think it's description, right? Uh, let's see. How
Uh,
many,
Are you looking for information that's available to visual users and screen reader users?
yeah.
That would be description.
You can put it in an answer. So I'm going to go ahead and put my label here into the graph. So now this is accessible, but I can also just like I did with the graph or image, I can also add a description, and then you can say, well, I don't know what I'd say here, but remember what a minimum is or something. You'll give them a link. Here's a link, blah blah blah, whatever, some kind of information, or be sure to put your answer in reduced form, or some kind of tip. When I do that, then I get this little thing over here that is both accessible to screen readers and visual users. So it's it's basically the same thing as the description was of the graph or image or video. We're out of time, so I'm going to just give you a link to the other exercise that I was going to show you, which was making dynamic graphs accessible. I will copy the link into the chat. And the only thing I'll mention here is the key is you can type in the word add controls here, and then you'll get different controls for moving things around that a screen reader makes it easier for a screen reader or someone who doesn't have good keyboard, who wants to use a keyboard users to manipulate a graph. And then here's where you can try to add controls to make the user like sketch this graph. Um, but we are down to 1 minute, so we will leave that as an exercise to the reader, I guess.
Dwayne, you have a couple of things in the chat.
Okay, what is it? The stuff is incredibly hard. Oh, you put stuff in there. Oh yeah, you want to put those you want to add those? Go ahead. I'll let you take over.
Oh, I thought you were going to lead us out.
Oh, you took credit for it. You just put it in there.
Let's see. Why are these things not behaving like links now? Okay. There's 3 things in the chat. One, well, guess. Do you want to talk about the different groups first, Dwayne?
Oh, I can well, I don't want to take well, whatever. I'll quickly show you. If you go to the Donut webpage, if you go to community, you can click on get involved. And it talks about different groups, different ways you can get involved. You want to help with the documentation, you want to help with this curriculum. You want to be what we're doing, you want to help train people. You can take over these training sessions. Help us with the newsletter. If you're a software, you can help us write software. Or if you're really interested in accessibility, you can help us figure out how to make Donut accessible. So these are some groups that we have formed. And I think that first, did you send that into, I can't tell if I'm looking at everyone or I'm looking at the everyone chat now. Yeah. So the first get involved with Donut link is about that.
So that's a quick Google form. If you're interested in finding out more about any of those groups, you're welcome to fill that out. The second link is just a post workshop feedback. I hope you'll seriously consider filling that out. Tell us what worked well, what could be done differently. We have another one of these scheduled in July. So I genuinely am sure Virginia and Dwayne would also be interested. And the third is a sign up sheet for those authoring pods I mentioned right after our lunch break. So hopefully, even if you're not, well, I hope you'll consider joining an author pod. But if you just like some silent work time and none of those times that we've randomly selected because they were open on my calendar work, I'm more than happy to just move them to a different time if it works for you better. Show and tell, Dwayne?
I don't know. I won't be here next week, so that's up to you.
Okay. Well, what typically happens in our in-person workshops is the last day of the workshop we have set aside for show and tell, but those are also 6 hours a day. We only met you for half that time every day, and well, first of all, thank you for spending that time with us. If you'll like, and if it's something you're interested in, we'd love to set something up perhaps Wednesday, or really, it doesn't really matter when it is. Tuesday we have office hours, but if you want to take time between now and sometime next week, or even if it's the week later, after that, to build an activity. So usually people arrive on a Monday for the in-person things. We share, again, the soft expectation that by the end of the week on Friday morning, we'll have a show and tell where everyone can volunteer and share an activity that they built by the end of the week. So if you've enjoyed working on the platform and you have something, even if it's a simple conversion, there's no minimum threshold for impressiveness. We just want to see what you built. And if you need help, community discussions, Discord, Facebook, I guess I should share a link. Maybe I'll share that by email. Would anyone be interested in something like that? We can even meet one-on-one. It doesn't have to be the entire group, although it would be great to meet as a group. Hayden?
Yeah, I would be interested in that.
Yeah. I'm sorry. What did you just say exactly we would do it? We would figure it out together, or we have a set time?
Well, we don't have anything scheduled right now, but if you have a time that works for you, I'm happy to put it on my calendar.
Oh no, I just you said something like on a Monday and then a Wednesday, so I wasn't sure if you had like an idea of that already or if we were trying to schedule.
Um, well, we were originally thinking of not forcing you guys to work on a weekend. That was Virginia's idea. I don't know where she gets these crazy thoughts. Uh, Strange behavior, not working on a weekend. What kind of insane life do you live? So Monday, Virginia thought it'd be better to give you guys time. Tuesday, we thought if you want, you can stop by office hours. And we actually have a reunion from the in person workshop, the first hour of office hours. You're more than welcome to join us as well, since now you're alumni of the Doenet workshop. That's on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. I'll send out a link to that too. So we can either do it at 3 during office hours if you have something done by then, or Wednesday, there's a proofing room at 4 p.m. Eastern. We can turn that into our little show and tell time. Or if you want to meet at 3 or, well, really any time. Wednesday is wide open for me, so I'm happy to chat whenever you guys want.
What, when are your office hours on Tuesdays?
2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern.
Okay. Is that every Tuesday or just this Tuesday?
Mm-hmm.
I put a link in the Zoom chat to our events page, and the first thing on the events page is the office hours.
Cool.
I guess I can take this virtual training workshop off it now.
Is anyone going to be at MathFest this summer? All right, cool. We have an in-person workshop or a mini course at MathFest on. I think it's got a long title: Upgrading Online Assignments, Building Scaffolded Activities for Conceptual Understanding. And hopefully next year you'll have built some activities and you'll help us run that mini course or other such workshops until we take over the world with our open source message, free and open source message. Dwayne, any closing thoughts?
Well, thanks for your willingness to spend this week with us. It's been fun. We hope that it was a good start that will help you get connected. We do want to focus that, again, mention that we view Donut as a whole community of people. We have these. We'll send out links again for the community discussions in Discord if you want to keep in touch with us that way. Or I hope to see you around, and it's always fun to see what kinds of things people can come up with.
It was very helpful. Matt Bulkins was like, "You can just get on there and play yourself," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to do that." I was like, "I need somebody to show me what to do. It's never going to happen if I try to play with myself, like do it all on my own." So, I do have a couple of activities I've already made. So if anybody is going, if we're going to meet on Monday, just need a time, probably in the middle of the day.
Okay, let's do this. Does 8 a.m. work for anyone on Monday? I just threw that on the calendar because it was like,
It does not work for me, but that's because I literally have to take 3 kids to 3 different camps.
what
So
time works? Because I don't think that list has been publicized yet, so I can just move my calendar around.
anytime after 10 and before 3.
Pick a time.
Well, I'm not going to be the only one. Does anybody else want to do it?
Hayden, any
I teach
preference?
a class at 10:30 starting on Monday, so maybe 1 p.m.
That's fine.
All right, I'll send out a reminder. Well, I'll keep the proofing room as it is for now, just because it's already there. I'll send out a separate Zoom invite for Monday the 22nd at 1 p.m. Eastern. Yes. Virginia, any closing thoughts?
Not really. Just it's fun to see people starting to use, all new authors are fun to bring into the community. So thank you guys for being here.
All right, with that, I will give you 6 minutes back. We did not go up to 4:15.
Were we supposed to go to 4:15?
Well, I thought we were trying to wait until then.
All right, well,
But I
thank
think
you.
it was a pleasure meeting you all. Hopefully, we'll see you soon.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you for your knowledge on the program. It's definitely a lot less intimidating now.
Great.
Definitely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Take care.
Have a good one.
Take care.